Here's this week's Steam Code Raffle winner. I give a Steam code for a free game away with every video I do, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment that wouldn't violate Twitter's terms of service. Make sure you have contact info in your YouTube profile so I can reach out to you. A complete list of games to choose from is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a chance to win. Now on with the show. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I started off playing First Squadron. It's no secret that I love the Star Fox franchise, save for the last bastardization made by Platinum and ruined by Nintendo's pathologic desire to innovate when it's not needed. That being said, it's been 7 years since the last official Star Fox game, 5 years since Fox McCloud's last playable appearance, and 12 years since Nintendo's last unabashedly good go at the franchise, which was Star Fox 64 3D. Anyone else feeling old yet? I can only imagine the hell that F-Zero Golden Sun and Earthbound fans have been going through, but I digress. Anyway, whenever a gap reveals itself in the market, various creators and opportunists will often fill those gaps and endeavor to make their own version of the popular game complete with blackjack and hookers, and it just so happens that there are a few games on my radar that are seemingly coming in to try and fill this gap. That gap being linear furry space shooters. Another one of those games, Whisker Squadron, still seems to be a bit farther away, so we'll have to settle for First Squadron to see if it can fill the void in my soul that Nintendo has created. Now, the first problem that comes in when you're trying to create a replacement or an alternative to a beloved franchise is that you are going to be inevitably compared to the original work, and if any element doesn't match up or meet expectations, then it's going to be an unfavorable comparison. So developers either need supreme confidence or a serious case of self-delusion. Star Fox set up a simple yet grand story of bringing space combat across the galaxy to the doorstep of a tyrannical robot monkey. First Squadron stumbles at this first hurdle by having the entire game story take place entirely in a VR training simulation. The main character you play as, and who I totally didn't have to look up their name, is Blaze Mastella, a ferret. He's joined by Axel Mex, an axolotl who is meant to be the game's Slippy supplement, and Kiro Nax, a wolf, I think, who seems to be simultaneously taking the roles of Falco Lombardi, Peppy Hare, and Wolf O'Donnell in one persona. Anytime they were on screen, I was moderately annoyed, partly because I was cynically determining who they were meant to replace, secondly because their audio was mimicking the original Super Nintendo game of having various garbled gibberish in different tones to simulate their speech over text boxes, and thirdly because I thought their visual design was leaning a little bit too far into the uncanny. In fact, the game's overall visual design is kind of annoying to me. I get that it was more of a creative decision to be set in a VR simulation because that meant you could theoretically use untextured polygons or wire models to represent all your in-game assets. However, this also makes it incredibly difficult to make significant variations on environments if you're going to have it be of the same aesthetic. The game ignores this problem in one aspect, but I'll get to that later. As for how it plays, it handles well enough, but the movement feels very stiff and mechanical. Other Star Fox games weren't entirely dissimilar, but slight visual flourishes in how the ship moved and stabilized gave a little bit more of a tangible sense of weight. First Squadron has the usual fare of being able to spam shots, barrel roll, pick up missiles, shields, and cannon upgrades, and I feel like the game has a decent foundation to work off. It's just a shame that's all it had and eventually came out to. To get back into the story, the crew are during training in order to prepare for a battle across the galaxy when inevitably the big baddie hacks their VR program to try and take them out while their minds are stuck in the virtual realm. They fight their way to the end to defeat the boss, and at this point I thought, okay, tutorial over, now for the real game. Then the credits started rolling. In the moment, I was immensely pissed. 26 minutes of playtime, and some of the worst space combat blue balls I'd ever experienced. This is also what I meant when I said it had to address the problem of needing to vary the environment, but that was unnecessary when the game was so short. Granted, the game was only $7, and I could theoretically go back and play it some more at different difficulty levels, but that would entail me wanting to go back in to experience the extremely linear game again in the first place, which also invites another inevitable comparison to the better Star Fox titles. Those games had multiple levels, different settings, and depending on the in-game decisions and performance, you could significantly change the outcome of the path in the story you were on. All in all, I felt like I was effectively paying $7 for a tech demo and proof of concept, and writing an entire review for what came down to 26 minutes of gameplay seemed almost criminally insubstantial. That being said, I dove into my backlog of Steam titles and eventually re-emerged with a game called Retrowave. Thinking about it, Retrowave, while technically in an entirely different genre and intention than Star Fox and First Squadron, shares a lot of similarities. I picked it because it also shares an aesthetic, but it's also about piloting a vehicle down a linear corridor and surviving and gaining points being the ultimate goals. Retrowave, by comparison, has you driving a car down a multi-lane highway, dodging in and out of traffic with your score being determined by how far you can get and how close you can get to the other cars without crashing. That's mostly it. However, where it comes together is the presentation. The 80s neon aesthetic, the VHS video filter, the synth music, and the tributes to classic and modern vehicle icons set up an appealing visual charm. It is worth noting that some of the filters and visual effects were a little bit straining on the eyes, but the game fortunately has options where you can toggle those to your preference. The gameplay loop is very short and simple. As I said before, driving drive down a road while trying to gain as many points while weaving through traffic as possible. The levels are effectively infinite scrollers, but once you crash or decide to give up, you're awarded points and currency that you can use to unlock other vehicles with different traits that you can then go in for another round. And that's just the base game mode. I very much enjoyed the bomb run game mode, where you can also drive a large semi that deliberately obscures a good portion of the road ahead. It gave me the kind of vibes like the original Speed movie, where you have to maintain velocity while weaving in and out of traffic. If you slow down, tip over, or hit too many vehicles, the bomb goes off. I would have tried the multiplayer, but unfortunately at the time there was no one else playing. It's simple, quick hit fun. The only significant criticisms I can pull up are that the game looks like it was very quickly assembled with certain assets, but they don't necessarily detract when you're getting into the zone and weaving in and out of traffic. And the other being the immersion braking that happens when you see an NPC vehicle using their blinker to indicate a lane change. That shit is only something that ever happens in video games, I can tell you that much. Finally, the game is currently discounted for a little over $1 thanks to the spring Steam sale, but even at full price, it's only about $3. So there you have this week's double bill. A $7 imitation proof of concept tech demo, and a $3 quick hit score chaser that I'm actually probably going to be using to kill time every so often. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'll gear up for the Resident Evil 4 remake. Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.